don't be scared to travel. Don't be scared to step out of your comfort zone when it comes to like maybe public speaking or that kind of thing. You find out what your fear is and don't let it rule you. Okay. That All right, we're gonna do a polish change. I wanted a more opaque look, so we're going with a glitter, clear glitter mix. Um, so while we are changing my polish, I want to hop on a trend that I noticed that I just could not pass up, and it is 30 or 40 things I've learned before 40. I think that's how it goes. 30 before 30, whatever. I'm in my 40s, so this would apply to any younger woman who is entering maybe into her 30s. I just want to share 30 things. So before we get started, you're going to see me sipping on my daily greens. I have the link below in the description box. It's Vital Proteins Daily Greens. And I usually get like McDonald's mango pineapple smoothie to mix it in. It tastes much better that way. That's really the only thing I try to go to places like that for. So that's what I'm going to be sipping on. And then I have my cotton rounds and my polish remover that I'll be using. Need to restock. Right. So 30 things that, actually we'll do 40 things by 40. So one of the number one things that I would advise younger women on is do not lose yourself in anything. What I mean is, in society, women are encouraged and praised for sacrificing themselves for situations, for their families, for their children, for their husbands. And while it's okay to sacrifice, that comes from a place of love. Any sacrifice, anything that's a sacrifice comes from a place of love. Okay, not arguing that. However, when it comes to putting yourself last constantly, you can't do that. You can't do that because what'll happen is you'll pay for it later. Okay, um, it doesn't mean be selfish. However, you will need to be selfish to an extent in order for you to continuously show up for those who you love. You can't pour from an empty vessel. Okay, so pour into yourself as much as you're pouring into others. That is something that I can't say I'm master, but I did on a regular basis. I invested in myself, particularly when it comes to like education and that kind of thing. So invest, right? Working out is a great investment that will always pay off as well. So that will be number two, invest. So number one, don't lose yourself. Number two, invest in yourself. Invest. And when I say invest, don't make any drastic changes or decisions with your physical person, your physical body, right? However, you want to invest in things that are not tangible concerning yourself. That will look different for different people. So you will have to do some soul searching and identify ways that you can invest in you in those intangible ways. Number three, if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right, and it's okay to say no. Okay, and no is a full sentence. That's a final answer. Okay, you don't always have to justify your no. You don't always have to give an explanation. So learn to say no. Right. You don't need to justify your answers. Okay, your responses for everything. You don't even have to justify why you need to take a personal day from work. Okay, so we're on like 4, 5. I'm just gonna ramble them all off. Okay, I'm not gonna be counting every single one of them. So if it doesn't feel right, then you don't have to continue with that, right? You don't have to continue with something that is not sitting right with you or is causing you pain or anguish or discomfort. Okay. Right. Next one. Don't make any rushed decisions. Okay. What you will find is there is a theory, and you'll have to do some research to identify the name of this theory, but it basically states that the more decisions you make over time, the quicker you are able to make good decisions. Okay, don't rush that process. Take your time when you first start making decisions. Take your time and make well thought out decisions. Okay, and so what you'll find that occurs over time is you will begin to recognize the patterns of life, the patterns of your decision making process, right? So what that looks like is when it comes to career, okay, or it comes to relationships, the more you decide you want a certain type of relationship, the easier it will be to recognize that type of relationship. Okay. So you'll notice that it will be easier to rule out and vet based on just like maybe 5 indicators, as opposed to when you're first dating and you're just trying to figure it all out, right? So that doesn't mean tarry at the well, right? It doesn't mean like, oh, you um, remain indecisive, right? Because indecisiveness usually comes from a lack of confidence in your ability to make decisions. So the short version of that is make as many decisions as you can consistently as early as you can. Just don't rush those decisions, because over time, there's no telling how many decisions a person makes in their life. But if you think about the amount of decisions that you make over the course of maybe a year, that's a lot of decisions, okay? However, if you remain paralyzed in indecisiveness, you rob yourself of making better decisions for you, okay? So you rob yourself of that experience of, okay, I made this decision. This is my decision. I'm sticking to it. I'm standing on it. You rob yourself of making a decision and realizing, ooh, that was not the best decision, and so you adjust fire. But you can't have a fear of failure. Okay. So next, eliminate your fear of failure. It's gonna happen no matter how well you prepare. However, the magnitude of that failure decreases over time because you have more experience, and what may seem like a failure really isn't a failure anymore. When you shift into looking at failures as lessons, then you've reached another paradigm in terms of like your decision making, for your life, right? So your decisions end up being lessons or blessings. Okay, so that's one thing. When it comes to the next one, I would definitely say if the stars are aligned and everything is aligned for a certain thing to occur, and there are no major roadblocks, no major issues, and time has been a factor, over the course of time, like not a short period of time, but like let's say you've had a significant amount of time to either plan for or segue into a possible change, then go ahead and make the jump. It's easier to recover from things that you've thought out because you will have taken the time to think out every possible scenario. So you're more prepared and more confident when you finally make that decision. Next, it's okay to want something and consider it for a period of time without acting, right? And what that looks like is not necessarily something that's like going to change your life in the moment, but let's say you're thinking about changing career fields, right? So if it's not feasible in the moment when you first have the thought, then that doesn't mean abandon it completely. It just means revisit that when you feel like it's a better time, if that's something that you really want to do. Okay. And then you over the course of time, you decide how you're going to execute that career change. Okay. The next thing, change careers. It's okay. It's not the end of the world if you find yourself in a situation where maybe a career or a job is not going, how you would want it to go. Okay, to reevaluate and change careers. Okay. Most people are not working in the fields that they went to school for. Okay. Find out what your strengths are next. Find out what your strengths are early on. Lean into them. Okay. Explore ways to strengthen your weak areas, but lean into your strengths. I did another thing that you want to know, like, know the difference between kindness and kind people and nice people. Okay. And your own actions that are kind versus nice. Okay. Nice is something that is socially acceptable, and women in particular are pressured with being nice, right? By mostly family members and people at church and school. She's such a nice girl. She's so nice, right? Nice will get you eaten alive. In the workplace, in relationships, unfortunately, as you're, navigating that. But being kind lasts a lifetime. You can be kind without being nice. Nice, especially like I know there's a term like people refer to like nice guys. Be careful of nice guys, okay? You want a man who is kind. A man who is kind through and through. He's not just kind when it suits him or when it's convenient. He genuinely has people's best interest at heart, not just yours in the moment because he wants something from you. Okay. So know the difference between being kind and being nice and someone who is just being nice because they want something versus being a truly kind person. You want a kind man. You don't want a nice man. You want a kind man. All right, because a kind man can put you in your place, can put somebody in their place or on their head, but have a good heart still. Okay, because that person probably deserved it, right? Nice guys will overlook opportunities to be kind because the niceness is coming from a self-serving place where they're expecting something for being nice. Okay, they men and women, get really dangerous when they're nice and they're not really kind people. Like their heart is bad, but they are nice or try to come across as nice. So, next, get it, pay for it. Okay. Even though you save, you definitely want to save. You want to get to a point where you're maxing out all of like your retirement savings and that kind of thing. But go ahead and get it. Get it. Anything that makes your life better, makes you more healthy, creates great memories, makes someone you love happy. Get it. I don't care. Get it. Figure out how to get it. If you can afford it, get it. If you can't afford it, then find something else to do. For something else to, some other way to express, care or whatever. But if you can do it, yeah, just do it. In my 43 years of living, I have no regrets that I can think of when it comes to money spent on those who I love and on items, on things that made my life better. Okay. The other stuff, see, if there were any regrets, it would be like paying for courses or programs that were useless to me because of snake oil salesmen. Don't get caught up in multi-level marketing schemes. If you can follow multi-level marketing anything, you can create your own business. Okay, so don't let someone rob you of an opportunity and motivation to do something for yourself because they decided to enlist you to be in some type of funnel chain multi-level marketing thing. Okay, don't waste your money on those. When it comes to partnerships, it is much wiser to make your business partners and your coworkers your friends than it is to try to make your friends your business partners and that kind of thing. Most of my closest friends who I've met in like the public sector or through business or work or whatever, they were my colleagues first. And when I saw that they had great work ethic, they were kind people, they once I realized that they were just simply good people, I wanted them as friends. I wanted to be a good friend to them, right? There are a handful of people who I'm blessed to have been friends with just from the time we met. We just hit it off and we're friends to this day, going on 30 years, 20 years. So you'll have those friends, but as an adult, when you start meeting people in the workplace, you want to see how they do when the boss isn't around. You want to see, do they sit on the clock? Do they want to sit around talking? Are they focused on what they're there for? Right? Those people make great friends. They make great friends. Don't be scared to travel. Don't be scared to step out of your comfort zone. When it comes to like maybe public speaking or that kind of thing, you find out what your fear is and don't let it rule you. Okay. That doesn't mean go and be a public speaker if you're, have anxiety about speaking. However, what it does mean is when the occasion presents itself, you make sure you rise to the occasion. Okay. Don't let a moment in your life pass you by that you could have stepped out of fear and into a possible purpose because of something, that is going on the inside. Right. So if you have anxiety and you aren't good with public speaking, there's going to be one time where you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose to rise to the occasion or flop. Rise to the occasion. Okay? Dig down, find some grit, and you rise to the occasion. And you'll notice that you will, whether you do good or not, you will be proud of yourself. Even if you absolutely flop, you'll be proud of yourself for trying, right? So that goes back to the decision making over time getting easier. And because you already know what failure feels like, right? A lot of times people don't make decisions because they have a fear of what failure would feel like, okay? And they don't want to feel that. Sometimes you have to feel it, okay? So that's another thing. Feel the feelings, all right? Don't allow anything to stop or hinder you feeling, right? So if you feel sad, feel the whole range of being sad. If you feel upset, feel the whole range of being upset, okay? Don't make any crazy decisions. If you feel disappointed, feel that whole feeling, right? Do not use any type of drug or alcohol to mask those feelings, because what happens is that feeling is still there. It's just been dumbed down. So whatever instance or interaction that caused that feeling can occur again, and you didn't feel the full range of the effects of what that made you feel like, and so you're more likely to repeat that. Okay, so feel the full range of feelings. Don't use wine, don't use any of that to numb your feelings, because what it'll do is over time you will repeat the same cycles, because you never allowed yourself to feel the whole range of feelings that are associated with something. Okay, so don't do anything to mask. Now there are coping strategies that you can use, like, I mean, a little retail therapy, you never hurt nobody. Okay, but in moderation. Okay, because what ends up happening with that is you use it too much, the same way some people use food to cope. You don't, too much of anything is a bad thing. Right, so that's another thing. Too much of anything is a bad thing when it comes to things we indulge in. When it comes to even some relationships or connections, too much of a thing can be a bad thing. Okay, even if you take too many vitamins, like, your body can only process so much, so they end up leaving, and you've taken way more than you needed to. Okay, so another thing, avoid excess. Anything that creates a burden on you, on your life, on your mental health. Avoid excess. Okay. Another thing, you don't have to prove yourself to people your whole life. Okay, I know there's a high school mentality that follows people from high school into adulthood. Don't get sucked into that, because what that'll do is hinder potential opportunities for growth and connection that um, are there. However, because of that high school mindset, because some people's best years were in high school, they just never grew out of that. Okay, so you'll have businesses, they're not going to necessarily support every part of your business if you don't fit into a certain crowd. It's okay. It's okay. Don't buy into that. All right. But you'll notice in the 30s it happens, and up to your 40s. You're gonna see people get married, divorce, and mind your business. Mind your business. Don't feel pressure. Don't feel like you have to rush into anything. Do not leave anything until you have a plan in place. All right. You need to have a logistics plan. You need to have a financial plan, and then you need to be able to properly execute that. Okay. Do not share all of your big moves before the designated time. You should be very discerning and prayerful about who you share your goals with. Okay. Make sure that the people who are in your lives mean you well, and sometimes it takes some time to identify those people. The people who are only around when you're going through things and just disappear when things are good for you, be wary of those people. Okay. Some people actually like to see you down, unfortunately, because it makes them feel better about their lives. Okay, so be careful who you tell what to. If you notice that every time you share something with a certain person that it falls through, stop sharing it with them. Stop sharing. Okay. Um, if you ever want to know if someone is going back and telling your business, tell them something that is a partial truth. Don't lie to them, but just tell them a partial truth, and see if that comes back around to you. Okay, then you'll be able to identify who is going around and telling your business. Okay. Also, don't tell anything that you don't want to get out in the workplace. Okay, keep your this goes back to like making your coworkers your friends. That doesn't necessarily mean like make them friends while y'all are working together, right? Most of my friendships that have come from the workplace, they started after we no longer worked together. All right, so there's a method to that. When it comes to meeting people, because in your 30s and 40s you're in build mode and you're really working, you're in your fields usually, the opportunities to meet new people are limited. So be very careful about dating people who you work with. Again, there's nothing wrong with maybe connecting after you don't work together anymore, but do not bring that mess into the job. Okay. As a supervisor, it gets real messy and you can't hide it. You can't hide it. They know. People, everybody knows. Everybody knows your business. Don't let everybody know your business. Lean into your faith. If you have faith, whatever that may be, lean into it. incorporate it into parts of your life. Keep an active lifestyle. Make sure you are consistently working on your health. Preventative maintenance is great. If you are, on a budget and maybe you can't necessarily afford a gym membership, then what you do is by now you should be into some type of career or have some type of health plan. Go to your doctor, get a full panel, blood work, everything. Have them check your thyroid, all that good stuff. And if anything is off, even if you're like 10 pounds overweight, okay, or 15, or considered, your body fat percentage is high enough to where you can be classified as being even mildly obese, baby, you have your doctor recommend exercise, okay, and have a note of what is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but there's a letter that your doctor can write that determines that in order for you to tackle X, Y, Z, you will need to ABC, okay? And ABC is sign up for some type of fitness class. So find out what fitness classes you like. You go and you freaking like submit that letter to your insurance company, and then pay for your membership out of your Flex or health savings account, okay? Because it's considered like preventative care and it's to manage whatever, okay? Other than that, drink lots of water. You're gonna need it. When it comes to any type of pattern in your life, if you notice like by your 30s and coming into your 40s that there's a pattern that you need to identify, like you identify what's leading you to repeat that pattern and you start working on that, okay? And that sometimes means going to counseling. So if you need to, go to counseling, all right? When it comes to family, you're going to, if you have your own family, you're going to focus more and more over time on your own nuclear family, okay? And don't let anybody guilt you out of that, okay? The people who understand, it will not matter. They will not give you a hard time about disappearance, so that you can make sure your family's okay, okay? Make sure you check on your people. Check on your people, follow up, make sure you're returning phone calls, because life is too short and you never know how long someone has, okay? So with that said, check on your people, okay? Be less judgmental, all right? A lot of people discover in their 30s and 40s like things about themselves that maybe they like or don't like, particularly when they don't like something about themselves. They can hit depression, right? And so that what that can look like is the midlife crisis type situation, okay? I like. They turn out great. May or may not put another coat on, but I like how they are right now, okay? So be gentle. Be gentle with people. If someone does not follow up on something, be gentle, okay? If they're typically someone who keeps their word and something happens and they happen not to, be gentle, all right? Don't go cutting people off because things happen that you would not even guess or would be on your radar, okay? But everybody doesn't want to share every little thing that they are dealing with or, in that moment. And as adults, you learn to respect other people's privacy. And if somebody wants to share something with you, they will, okay? If they don't, they won't, okay? Be okay with that. Be okay with also protecting, your information, your peace. And if there's something you don't necessarily want to share with somebody, you don't have to share that with somebody, okay? And that's another thing. Don't feel pressured into oversharing, okay? When you realize that you can trust that person with your information, especially as a woman, you can then share things as it comes up in conversation. But don't feel like obligated to pour out your life story to somebody, especially a total stranger, because you don't know how they're going to handle that information or what they're going to do with that information or what their intentions are towards you, okay? So you want to protect your physical person, your spiritual, your mental person as much as possible. And part of that is not sharing too much too soon, especially when it's trauma related. But also, even if there's no major trauma points, you don't want to share too much too soon. Like a man who you're not engaged or married to shouldn't necessarily be concerned with what you do for a living or your finances, how much you bring home, right? It's okay for him to know what field you're in, but any preoccupation with what you do for a living in the first 3 to 6 months, that's a red flag, okay? That's a huge red flag. Another thing, when you see red flags, recognize them for what they are. Don't try to repaint them, okay? When somebody loses their temper with you,